When we speak about time, most people think of it as a ticking clock, as numbers moving on a watch, as days slipping away on a calendar. But time, in its true sense, is not something that is chasing us or running ahead of us. It is not an enemy waiting to tell us that we are too late. Time is simply a measure of movement, and how we perceive it decides how we live. The notion of being too late is only born in our mind. It does not exist in reality. If you sit here and think you are too late to do something, it is not time that is telling you that. It is your own thoughts that have become your limitation. When you look at nature, does a tree ever think it is too late to blossom? If a tree is old and one branch is still alive, when the season comes, flowers bloom. The tree does not sit and cry that it has missed its spring. Existence does not operate with such ideas. It simply flows with what is possible now. The only place where too late exists is in the human mind. And once you begin to live by that thought, you shrink your life. You close the doors to what can still happen, and you surrender not to time, but to your own imagination. If you think about it carefully, the feeling of being too late is always connected to comparison. You look at someone younger, faster, or more accomplished, and you say, "I should have done it then. Now it is too late." You are comparing your timeline with someone else's, and in that comparison you make yourself small. But what you forget is, your life has never been meant to be a copy of someone else's. Your path, your rhythm, your moment of flowering is unique to you. When you compare, you are trying to impose another person's clock on your life, and that is when this illusion of being too late takes root. Even if you lost years, even if you spent decades without clarity, the only question that matters is, are you alive now? If you are, then time is still on your side. This breath you are taking is not late. It is immediate, it is fresh, it is new. Life does not know yesterday or tomorrow, it only knows this breath. So, when you begin to live with this awareness, you see that there is no such thing as being late. There is only this chance, this possibility, this now. Many people waste their present moments thinking about how much time they wasted in the past. And in doing so, they waste even more. They turn the present into a graveyard of regrets. But if you see clearly, the past is only a memory, and memory cannot bind you unless you cling to it. What is real is not the regret, but the aliveness you hold right now. If you can drop the idea that you are late, your whole life energy shifts. You no longer move like a defeated person. You move like someone who is alive to the miracle of this very moment. You see, a person who believes they are too late has already closed half the doors of life. They will not try, they will not explore, they will not risk, because the thought tells them it is useless. But the one who understands that time is only a perception, that life is not bound by a clock on the wall, suddenly sees infinite doors open. There is no late, there is only living or not living. It does not matter if you are 20 or 70, if you are rich or poor, if you have succeeded or failed. The fact that you are alive means the game is still on. If your heart is still beating, it is not too late to change direction, to create, to begin again. Life is not waiting for your regrets, it is waiting for your participation. And every time you choose to participate fully, time bends itself to you. Suddenly what seemed like a limitation dissolves, and you discover that the strength of life was always in the immediacy of now. When you stop saying, "too late," you begin to treat every moment as an opportunity. Even pain becomes a doorway, even loss becomes a teacher. Even the simplest breath becomes a chance to start fresh. But if you keep repeating to yourself that the chance has passed, you do not allow yourself to step into what is still available. In truth, you are not fighting against time, you are only fighting against your own unwillingness. If you think carefully, everything that matters in life always happens in the now. Love happens in the now. Joy happens in the now. Transformation happens in the now. Nothing essential has ever happened in the past or future. It always unfolds in this living moment. So how can you ever be late for something that exists only here? Life does not judge you for when you start. It only asks you, will you start? Will you live fully in the space that is open before you, or will you sit at the door thinking it has already closed? The idea of being too late is like locking yourself outside while the door is wide open. All it takes is a little willingness to step in. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "It's too late," pause and ask, too late for what? Too late according to whose measure? Because as long as you are breathing, life is not finished with you. The possibility of what can be done, what can be lived, what can be transformed, it is still here, right now, waiting. The only thing that makes it late is the thought that it is so. If you drop that thought, you will see time itself becoming your companion, not your enemy. It is never too late. It is always now. When we speak of starting something in life, most people look back and say, "I should have begun years ago. If only I had taken that step then, today everything would be different." This is the nature of the mind. It always looks back with regret or looks ahead with fear. But life itself is not happening in the past or the future. It is only here, only now. The power to move, to grow, to transform has never been anywhere else. The most powerful step you can take is always the step you take now. If you observe yourself carefully, you will see that hesitation is the greatest thief of life. People hesitate, they wait for the perfect time, the perfect condition, the perfect clarity. They say, "When everything aligns, I will start." But tell me, when has life ever aligned itself perfectly for anyone? Life is never about everything being in order. It is about you stepping into it with whatever clarity you have and allowing it to grow as you move. If you wait for everything to be clear before you begin, you will wait for lifetimes. When a seed sprouts, it does not wait for the perfect soil, the perfect rain, the perfect sunshine. It pushes through the soil, not knowing whether there will be enough rain or too much, not knowing if the sun will shine bright or hide behind clouds. It begins anyway, and because it begins, life supports it. In the same way, when you begin, even with a small step, life starts to open doors. But if you keep saying, "Not now, maybe tomorrow, maybe later," the doors remain closed, not because they are locked, but because you never approached them. The present moment is not just a small slice of time, it is the only doorway into reality. Everything else is imagination, memories of what has passed or projections of what may come. But this living moment, this breath is solid. It is here, it is alive. When you place your action in this moment, you are aligning yourself with the only thing that is real. That is why the step you take now has immense power. It is not scattered in the illusions of past and future. It is rooted in life itself. Look at the way people speak. They say, "I wish I had started learning when I was younger. I wish I had pursued my passion before responsibilities came. I wish I had dared when I had more time." And because they keep saying this, they never begin even now. But if you see, the only real chance you have is not the one you missed yesterday, but the one that is open to you this very second. If you miss this, you are only repeating the same story again and again. Yesterday's regret becoming today's excuse, and today's excuse becoming tomorrow's regret. The courage to start now is what breaks that cycle. It does not matter if your step is small. It does not matter if you do not know the whole path. Once you begin, something shifts inside you. You move from being a prisoner of thought to being a participant in life. Life responds to participation, not to hesitation. The moment you take even one genuine step, life meets you with 100 possibilities. You may have noticed, whenever you postpone, the weight of inaction grows heavier. A simple thing, if you had done it immediately, would have felt light. But when you delay it, it becomes a burden in your mind. You begin to carry it like a rock, and then you say, "It is too much, I cannot do it now. This is how people build mountains of impossibility in their own minds. The mountain was never there. It was only a small step, but because you waited, you made it huge. When you act now, you prevent that mountain from forming. You keep life simple, fresh and alive. People often ask, what if I fail? But failure itself is only an idea. The real failure is in not trying. Once you start, even if you stumble, you are already ahead of where you were before. Stumbling teaches, failing teaches, but hesitation teaches nothing. If you fall 10 times but stand up 11, you are alive, you are moving, you are growing. And strangely, life has a way of shaping itself beautifully when you keep moving, but it remains locked when you stand still. The power of now is not just in action, it is also in transformation. A person can live 50 years of their life in one way, but if in this moment they choose to change, that one decision can rewrite the quality of the rest of their life. It does not take decades to transform, it takes a moment of clarity and a step taken with sincerity. That is why it is never late, because the moment of change is always available to you. The mind will keep telling you stories. It is too early, it is too late, it is not the right time. But the truth is, the right time never comes. It is always now. The most beautiful things in life happen when you stop waiting for perfect conditions and allow yourself to move in the imperfection of the moment. In that very movement, perfection arises. So do not ask whether you should have begun earlier. Ask only whether you are willing to begin now. Because if you are, then this very moment becomes the seed of a new life. It may not look like much at first, but every great tree was once just a small seed that dared to begin. The step you take now is not just an action, it is a declaration that you are alive, that you are willing, that you are ready to participate fully. And once you make that declaration, life itself rearranges to support you. The most powerful step is always the one you take now. When people say they feel too late, it is rarely because of what is happening now. It is almost always because they are carrying the weight of what has already passed. They replay the chances they missed, the choices they regret, the dreams they abandoned. And in carrying this burden, they convince themselves that the present moment is already spoiled. But the truth is, the past is only alive in your memory. What is gone is gone. It cannot be touched, it cannot be fixed, it cannot be relived. Yet most human beings spend their entire present holding on to the shadows of yesterday, and then they wonder why the future looks heavy. If you really want to know what keeps you from starting, it is not time, it is the baggage you refuse to put down. Think of it like this: if you are walking a path with a heavy load on your back, even if the road is smooth, it feels impossible. Not because the road is difficult, but because you are carrying too much weight. In the same way, the journey of life is not as complicated as we make it. What makes it exhausting is the constant load of guilt, resentment, and regret that people insist on carrying. If you set the bag down, suddenly the path feels lighter and you can walk with ease. The problem is not the path, the problem is what you drag along. Every human being has a story of missed opportunities. But what you must understand is that the story is just memory, and memory has no life of its own unless you feed it with your energy. Right now, what is truly real is this moment, this breath, this possibility. But instead of using this energy to live, most people pour it into nursing old wounds and lost chances. You can either keep replaying the past like a broken record, or you can press stop and play the fresh music of now. The choice is always yours. Many times people tell me, I cannot begin again because I already failed so many times. But failure is only meaningful if you make it into a permanent identity. If you see it clearly, failure is nothing but experience. It was life teaching you how not to do something. If you can carry the lesson and drop the pain, failure becomes a stepping stone. But if you carry the pain and ignore the lesson, then you keep stumbling over the same stone again and again. Dropping the weight of the past does not mean you erase the memory. It means you stop turning it into your prison. You let the memory serve as wisdom, not as a chain. Look at the way nature moves. When a river flows, it does not carry yesterday's water along with it. Every moment, fresh water comes. It does not look back saying, "Yesterday I flowed this way, so today I cannot." It simply moves. But the human mind clings. If you made a mistake 10 years ago, you keep dragging it like it happened this morning. Life has already moved on, but you are still standing in the same place holding on. That is why you feel heavy, that is why you feel late. Not because life has closed its doors, but because you have closed yourself inside your own memories. Sometimes people believe that holding on to regret shows responsibility. They think, if I forget my past mistakes, I will repeat them. But responsibility does not mean carrying pain endlessly. Responsibility means using awareness to live better now. When you drop the burden, you do not drop awareness. In fact, you become more aware because your mind is no longer clouded with heaviness. You can see the path ahead with clarity. When you walk with clarity, you naturally do not repeat the same mistakes. Carrying the pain of the past is not responsibility, it is self-punishment. And punishment does not transform anybody, awareness does. If you want to see how much weight you are carrying, just sit silently for a moment and watch your thoughts. You will notice that much of what troubles you has nothing to do with what is happening right now. It is all echoes from the past. But if you can be just a little more conscious, you will realize that these echoes have no power unless you keep giving them attention. The moment you turn away from them and focus on the present, the echoes fade. Suddenly, you feel lighter, freer, more alive. This is what it means to drop the baggage. The fear of being too late comes only when you measure the present against the past. You say, "I should have started 5 years ago. Now it is late." But tell me, 5 years ago, you were saying the same thing about 10 years ago. And 5 years from now, you will say the same thing about today if you keep holding on. This is the trap of regret. It never ends until you decide to step out of it. The moment you put the past down, the idea of lateness disappears. Because then you see clearly that life is not asking you, "Why didn't you do it earlier?" Life is only asking you, "What are you willing to do now?" Dropping the past is not about erasing who you are. It is about freeing yourself to live fully. You are not defined by what has already happened. You are defined by the choice you make in this moment. Every saint, every leader, every creator who transformed themselves did so not because their past was perfect, but because at one point they refused to let the past dictate the present. That refusal is what made the difference. If you truly wish to live without the weight of lateness, you must learn to walk light. Lightness comes when you stop dragging yesterday into today. If you carry the past as wisdom, you will walk like a free human being. If you carry it as regret, you will crawl under its burden. So do not imprison yourself in what has already passed. Do not waste your present breath holding on to a moment that is gone. The past is over, but life is still here, waiting for you to live it. Drop the weight, and you will see it is never too late. As long as you are breathing, life has not given up on you. That is the most fundamental truth people often forget. They look at the years behind them, they look at their circumstances, they look at their mistakes, and they tell themselves, "It is too late." But look closer. If you are still alive, if your heart is still beating, if your breath is still moving in and out, life has not withdrawn its invitation. It is still offering you the possibility to begin again, to create, to reshape yourself, to live more fully. It does not matter how much time you think you have wasted. What matters is that this moment is still here, vibrant, open, waiting for you to step into it. Life does not say, "You missed your chance, now you must wait until the next." That is how the human mind thinks. Existence itself is endlessly generous. Every breath you take is like life whispering to you, "Here is another chance, will you use it?" People often measure their lives by age, by milestones, by what they believe they should have achieved by a certain point. They say, "I am too old to learn this, too late to change that, too late to dream again." But who made these rules? Time did not. Life did not. These rules are made up in human society, repeated so often that people begin to believe them. If you were to look at life without these man-made measures, you would see that there is no late and no early. There is only living or not living. A flower may bloom in spring, another in summer, another even in the last days of autumn. None of them are wrong. None of them are late. Each one blooms according to its own rhythm. In the same way, each human being has their own moment of unfolding. If you believe you are late simply because your rhythm does not match someone else's, you are blind to the uniqueness of your own path. The very fact that you are still alive means your flowering is still possible. Consider the countless people who discovered their passions late in life. Some wrote their first book in their 60s, some started painting in their 70s, some began running marathons in their 80s. If they had believed the thought that it was too late, none of this would have happened. They lived not because of age, but because of willingness. Life does not care for your age, it cares for your aliveness. When you are willing, life responds no matter what stage you are in. The beauty of life is that it never closes its doors on you. You may close them in your mind, but life itself remains open. The only real question is whether you are open to it. If you carry the thought, "I am finished," then for you, it is finished. Not because life ended, but because you refuse to engage. But if you carry the thought, "I am still alive, so I am still capable," then endless possibilities stand before you. The power of possibility is not determined by the number of years behind you, but by the intensity of the life within you. When you see this clearly, you stop living as a victim of time. You stop repeating the story that everything is already decided. Instead, you begin to experience life as a field of open potential. Each breath becomes a chance to turn in a new direction, to create something new, to experience something deeper. As long as the breath is in you, there is no point where you can truthfully say, "It is too late." The tragedy is that many people give up long before life gives up on them. They stop dreaming, they stop trying, they stop exploring, not because they have no energy left, but because they have convinced themselves that the energy is useless now. If only they could see that life itself has not quit on them, they would discover a new spark. They would realize that the body, the mind, the heart, even if aged or tired, are still alive, still ready to respond if they choose to. Do not confuse aging with ending. The body may slow, but the essence of life within you is ageless. That essence does not grow old, it does not expire. It is as fresh in your last breath as it was in your first. To connect with that essence is to know that every moment, whether you are 20 or 80, is equally full of possibility. You are not late because life never stops offering. If you keep measuring yourself against some imaginary timeline, you will always find a reason to feel late. But if you measure yourself only by how alive you are willing to be now, suddenly the burden of age and past dissolves. The question is never, "Am I too late?" The question is, "Am I willing now?" That willingness is what makes life respond. So remember, as long as breath flows through you, the game is still on. Every morning the sun rises not only for the young, not only for the ambitious, but for everyone who is alive. Each sunrise is life telling you, "Here is another chance. Take it." It is never too late, because life is still with you,